Welcome to the Emerge Podcast, where Ronnie Doss shares insights regarding life, leadership, and personal development. For more of our resources, visit ronniedoss.com. Now, let's join the podcast.
Hey there, it's Ronnie Doss. Welcome to the Emerge Podcast. Today, I want to talk about growing up. Now, I'm not talking about growing up as an age component. I'm not just talking about that. I'm not talking about my growing up and my childhood. I want to talk about the importance of emotional intelligence and the need for us all, no matter what our situation may be, to move past some of the knee-jerk reaction that lives within us and allow some of the adult, the grown-up part of us to do the work. You know, right now more than ever, people are feeling pressed. I just had a conversation earlier today, and someone was sharing with me who's a small business owner. They were saying that they were having conversation with one of their clients, one of their customers in their business, and this person was really at their wits' end because they're being asked to work from home. So that's very different. They're working remotely when normally there's the face-to-face contact and that interaction. But not only that, on top of that, they're being asked to work from home while taking care of their kids and teaching their kids, while their kid is now working from home for school. And the paths over crossing and there not being any separation at all at any time can be very, very taxing on people. And that pressure of doing things in a way that we've not done it before can be something that is a catalyst. It provokes within us some behavior, some feeling that really doesn't serve or support anyone involved. You know, this is a time where I'm very clear that hopefully this time will pass, but this time is something that I don't know that we're going to get back again. I could be wrong. This could happen again and again. Some people think that there's going to be a wave of this just like the flu. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to go through it, we definitely have to be coming from the place that we're going to grow through it. And we need to develop some self-awareness and learn to be as present as possible so that we don't fall prey to what's going on around us and that provoking this knee-jerk within us to get all emotional. You know, when we fall into this emotional state, it's almost like it switches us into autopilot, and it causes us to do more of the same behavior that we've had. Now we're just doing it harder. We're pushing harder, but not really changing anything. And this often leads to exactly the wrong result. And so I was reading a quote, it was actually a little earlier today, and it was by Dostoevsky. And what he said is, it takes more than intelligence to be intelligent. And I think if you listen to that, that's a pretty powerful quote, because having a diploma on the wall right now it's wonderful, right? When we've achieved certain levels of education, it's terrific. But there's also some components to education that you just can't learn in a classroom, that the only way you actually can learn it is in the school of hard knocks, the university of adversity, but paying attention during that class as well. Like, you can blow through this time and be like, yeah, it's time to get back to work. It's time to go back and do what I'm always doing before, because that's the only way. And that becomes the distraction from looking within and seeing if there's anything within us that might be unhealed or something that we can work to master. And, you know, mastery doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't. It just means that you're doing something so well that it's a natural part of you. It doesn't mean you're perfect every single time, but mastery is this work. It's where we can get to a point where there's a plateau in our life where maybe we don't see a lot of change, we don't see a whole lot of the result that we're hoping for, there's not a lot of excitement, but yet with mastery, I can still do what's necessary, even when there's not the immediate payout, the immediate gratification. It's like we need to get it now. We need to get it quickly. We have the microwave principle where if I can't get it quickly, then I'm just not going to want it. And I think that right now we're being pressed on a lot of different sides. And so if you're listening to this, I'm just going to challenge you to check yourself in a way that maybe you haven't checked yourself before as far as your emotional stability and your emotional intelligence. You know, I'm not saying that if you've lost your marbles here and you've said some things that maybe you shouldn't have said, maybe you acted in a way that you hoped that you would never act, and maybe you did, that's okay. You know, that's water under the bridge. Things happen. But I think it's time for us to get really aware and be a little more conscious of what we're allowing our emotions And all this overwhelm, what we're allowing it to do to us, taking some personal responsibility for our thinking and where we put our focus is very, very important. You know, I heard it said one time that if you don't like something that you see, take away the one thing that gives that thing its power, and that's your focus. Right now, we do need to know what's going on. But I think we can get so pulled into this drama, this narrative that's going on around us, that it gives us permission to not have to check inside and actually look in the mirror and see what we're doing to contribute to this state of being that just might not be helping us to navigate through this. You know, it's not that you walk through hell and it destroys you. It's that you walk through hell and you don't pay attention to the things that destroy you. People walk through hell in life. We've all walked through it at some point. There's a challenge that we've faced that we didn't expect. There's things that we've all gone through that we never expected to go through. Right now is a perfect example of that. But I read a quote recently that said if you want to have a tree that grows up to heaven, you're going to have some roots that have reached down to hell. And, you know, that means difficulty. That means challenges. That means adversity. That means pressure. That means things that you just didn't expect to have happen. And we've got some roots there now. And we've got to be okay with leaving them there long enough for us to pay attention to what is really real within us. And sometimes when you walk through a really difficult time, that's where you get to see what's within you. Are you going to snap? You're going to break? You know, you're going to give it all up and say, this is it? Or are you going to say, wait a minute, maybe this is not the end. I haven't come to the end. I'm not ready to quit. What can I do to shift my perspective in this moment to keep me moving forward and strengthen me in moving forward? And what can I remove out of my backpack that can help me to continue to push forward? You know, if we don't get control of our emotions, it's like we're trying to run a marathon with a backpack on that is weighted down and it's very heavy. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I think right now it feels like many people are throwing things into their backpack that they don't need to be throwing into their backpack, worrying about things they can't control. And I've done it. I mean, this is very real for all of us, but you have to understand that we can't allow the circumstances to so break us and wear us down that the rest of the journey that we have is in no way enjoyable. Because you can look for a shred of light in all the difficulty. There's always something that we can put our focus on. And that shift to gratitude can help us to navigate some of these difficult times that we're in finding anything that we can be grateful for. And if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're listening on an iPhone, you're listening on some device. And if you have that, let's be honest, you're wealthier than a majority of the people on the planet. If you can listen to something like this and you have access to this, and this is the kind of thing you're focused on, you're blessed. You're in a pretty good spot. And if you're walking through some challenges, you can put your mind on that versus putting it on what you don't have. And I think in that moment, when you realize that there's something else you can focus on, your emotions start to follow. You know, I don't think emotion is there for us to simply be cast aside and avoided. I think we need to engage it. You know, we need to engage the emotion and go, well, I'm really frustrated right now and I'm afraid. And I think sometimes if you can look at it and address it with a bit of an imaginative approach at least, you can come up with some new things. Imagine some creativity on not staying in that place where you let fear run you, but yet you're creating with your imagination a different type of scenario to put your focus on that at least empowers you in that moment to do something around planning and preparing for a better future that will come. You see, you can't wait until it's time to play the game to practice playing the game. If that's the case, the only time you ever practice is during the game. You're probably going to get beat every single time by somebody else that has practice. The time to get ready and the time to be ready are not the same. And so if we can put our focus on something, it fuels us, it feeds us, it renews us in a moment. And from that moment of being able to grab a breath of fresh air or a new perspective, we can then get back into the fight and dig towards what it is that we want. This is a huge thing for all of us. I don't think we want to avoid this. I don't think we're trying to avoid the emotions that are real here. I think that if we look at them for what they really are, I think in there we can find something that we can really dive into and look at how we can get better at that very thing. That way when we get through this, and I believe we're going to get through it, as we get through it, we can look back on it and say, hey, that time wasn't wasted. That wasn't a wasted time. What is one thing that I pulled out of that situation? What did I learn that exposed maybe some vulnerability or some weakness in me that now I can use to be better for the future, to make my kids better, right? To anybody that I'm teaching, mentoring, anybody that I work with, to help to make them better. What is that? And I think if you're willing to really look at that, then you can see that all of it, even the challenges in some way, can provide a gift. Maybe it's not a full-on gift, but there's a partial gift in it, something that you can gain from and use it to be better moving forward. I hope that you don't forget that. I hope that you know that you are cared for, that there are people out here that are doing the work. We're putting our heads down. We're serving. We're doing what it is that we feel called to do to continue to move this thing, the human race, forward in any area, whether that's one-on-one with people, whether that's one-on 100, whether you have an influence of thousands of people and you're reaching them digitally, virtually, whatever it is, or if it's one person being you that's working to just get better for you, whatever that is, know that there's another group out there that are doing the work also, and that we are really all in this thing together. It may not look like it. As I've said before, we may not be in the same boat, but we are in the same ocean. And I think that the ocean, it's a gift to be in it. Otherwise, we really would have never lived. We would have never existed. And so we're here. The question is, what are we going to do? I think commitment overpowers emotion. When you can stand in commitment, the emotions, they sometimes come and go. Don't let them control you so much. Emotions are temporary. Don't stay in the place of a certain emotion if you realize it's not serving you. Ask yourself some imaginative, creative questions. Where could I put my focus right now that can help me to navigate and get through this? This is Ronnie Doss. I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the messages that we're receiving. Thank you for being a part of this podcast, listening to it, liking it, sharing it, whatever platform it is, just to make sure that the information gets out there. Ideas are very powerful, and one idea can help somebody to change the trajectory of their life. It might be one thing that they needed. So you never know what they might need from this. They might get from it to help them to do better. Because again, we are all dealing with some things right now we didn't expect to deal with, but we are going to get through it. I look forward to talking to you guys again very, very soon. Take care.